Welcome everyone to the next installment of Purposely, and I'm very excited to introduce you to Jess Williamson. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
No worries. Now, we've just heard that you're in WA. I'm obviously in Tassie, so we're quite a long way away.
About as further away as you could get in Australia.
Pretty much. Oh, I don't know how would Queensland be further away?
Good question.
Anyway, so people can learn a little bit about you. I know I like to ask all my guests a weird question. So if you were at a dinner party and someone said, "Oh, g'day, Jess, what do you do?" What would you tell them?
I always try and narrow this down, but it is very hard because I've basically run 4 different businesses in the last 5 years. But at the moment, I am here to inspire and empower other female entrepreneurs to unleash their superpowers and stop getting in their own way so that they can live their life of their dreams.
I love it. That sounds very exciting to me. So what's the story behind that, though? So I'm sure that there's a story behind the story. Let's go way back to the start and hear the story of Jess and how you ended up working in the field of mindset and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I started my entrepreneurial journey, and I recently actually shared about this, but I started my first business when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I started the girls' club in primary school, which very quickly got shut down by the teachers, which is a whole nother story in itself.
I want to hear that story. Let's hear that story.
So I came up with this idea. I didn't enjoy just playing at lunch and recess, so I thought, let me organize organized games where there's a winner. And so everyone signed up, and I had these paper contracts that I even had a little drawing of each person in the corner, and they'd sign up, and it was 20 cents or something to join, which is nothing. And it's basically a not-for-profit because I took all of the 20 cents to the canteen, bought the lollies, and those were the prizes for the games. And it's pretty bloody great business idea, if I do say so myself. And the teachers got wind of this, and they said I had to refund everyone immediately. So it lasted probably 1 or 2 days. It didn't last long. And they made me feel like I was running a scam. And I understand that they have to protect the kids at school and this and that, but I'm someone I'm all about fairness. I get annoyed when people cheat at Monopoly. So I'm all about fairness. I was not scamming anyone, and the teachers shut that down. So it's probably why I took a hiatus from business until I was about 22 again. But it's always been in me to have ideas, to see better ways of doing things, and to really chase after those ideas. But it's just unfortunate that the teachers decided that this is a scam and you have to refund everyone. Even though I didn't pocket a cent of it, it was just a great thing that I thought, well, I would rather play fun games than just run around on the playground. So that was my first business idea. And then it wasn't until I was 22. Well, when I was 17, let me just take one step back. When I was 17, finishing high school, you had to choose what you wanted to study at uni. And well, I wanted to go to uni. You didn't have to, but I wanted to go to uni. And I decided I'm going to study management because I want to be a CEO one day. So that sounds like a course a CEO should take. So even at the age of 17, I was like, what do CEOs need to do? I'm going to be a CEO one day. So there's probably lots of people listening right now that have been called bossy their whole life. And, that's definitely me. I'm very much an introvert, but I can very much see better ways of doing things. And so my parents always called me bossy. But as we know, that can actually be a strength. And, we have to be careful with the words we use talking to kids, because that I now know is my strength. But at the time, I was very conscious of being too bossy. So I started that. I did uni. I studied management and marketing. And then I started working full time. But I always knew there was something more for me. And I was always connecting with all these random people on LinkedIn and just reaching out to really high up people all throughout the marketing industry and just networking my way through. But I was working in digital marketing, managing $500,000 budgets every single month just on Facebook ads. So I had a massive crash course in digital marketing and that side of things. But I still wasn't, I knew that I was capable of so much more. So I started my very first official business when I was 22 in 2016, which was Ete Swimwear. And Ete Swimwear went on to be a global swimwear fashion brand. I still have that business. I'm just not as involved in the every single thing. I was the customer service, I was Instagram manager, I was everything. So now I'm taking more of a CEO role. But that was my first business. And I had zero experience whatsoever in manufacturing, zero experience in business. I was 22, I was a female. There were so many excuses that I could have probably used to not go after that goal or not go after that dream. But I just thought to myself, I want swimwear like this. I'm sure there's other people out there who want that. And at the time, I had plenty of different ideas. I thought fashion, homewares. I really loved fashion. But then I thought, I'm just going to have to choose an idea, give it a red hot crack. If it doesn't work out, I'll try one of my other ideas. And I think so many people get stuck in that ideas phase and just have a million ideas and never act on them. So if you are listening and you're in that phase, go for it, just do one. Even if it's not the perfect choice, it's a choice. And any choice is better than no choice, right? So I started that business and I just decided within myself, this is going to be a global swimwear brand and that's how it's going to go. So within 7 months of having the idea, I'd launched globally. I created a whole new collection, figured out how on earth to manufacture, figured out how on earth to do everything. I built the website myself, did the Instagram, and built up that following before I then launched globally. And on day one, we had orders from all over the world, which was really, really exciting. But the most exciting thing to come out of that was after just 1 week of launching the business, I was invited to New York Fashion Week. And when I got that email, I thought, this has got to be a scam. Who on earth is inviting me to New York Fashion Week after 1 week in business? And it was to be part of an Australian showcase with top brands that I've looked up to for so long. And so I thought, this seems really dodgy, but I'm going to explore the idea. So I spoke to some of the brands and I had a call with the people that invited me, and it wasn't a scam. So what I thought to myself was, I'm just going to say yes and figure out how on earth to create a whole new collection in less than 6 months when I haven't even sold any of my current one. How on earth to get all the money to create a new collection, to fly to New York, to do all of these amazing things. That's tomorrow's problem. Today is just saying yes to this and going for it. And again, that's where the message of mindset comes in, because I could have said, well, who am I to go to New York Fashion Week? I have no experience. All of these brands are bigger than me. They're more advanced. Who am I to show up on the world stage? But those thoughts didn't even cross my mind. The only thoughts that crossed my mind was how am I going to get the money? I'll deal with that later. And let's just say yes. So mindset was part of my journey kind of the whole way through, and even just starting and launching the business, not getting stuck in that idea paralysis or deciding to launch and be global from day one. I didn't think, let me just test this out with people in Perth and see how it goes. I said, no, I'm going to do this big and I'm going to go for it. So, I didn't just tinker around and practice. And sometimes people say to me, Jess, can't I just practice first and then I'll do it properly? What's the point? Because you're basically setting yourself up to fail. You're not giving yourself even the opportunity to succeed because you're putting restrictions on yourself. So at the time, I didn't even realize that this was a mindset that I was having. I was just like, this is what's next, what's next, what's next. But now that I look back, I see how important mindset was. And now that I speak to so many other entrepreneurs, I realize that not everyone thinks this way. And I am so grateful that that was just naturally how I thought. But now I'm able to now use a lot of tools, a lot of strategies that I've done a lot of research into and a lot of training into to help others actually unleash that within themselves. Because, you know, experience through life, society, the way we're brought up, all of these things change the way that our mind works. So I'm helping people to get out of their own way now and actually go after their dreams, because if I can do it with zero money at 22 and no experience, then anyone can. The only difference is the mindset, really, at the end of the day. So that's a little bit of my journey. And after that, I went on to start, 3 other businesses. Some I've sold, some I've sort of put on pause, because one of which was an influencer travel agency. So obviously we're not going too far right now. But I took influencers all over the world to amazing destinations to promote other brands because of the experience I'd had through Ete Swimwear working with influencers. So there was quite a few different things, but now I'm really passionate about and really focusing most of my time and energy into educating other female entrepreneurs, empowering them and coaching them through some of those blockages that they might have to actually reach the success that they only hold as a dream right now, but it is really possible.
I love that. I love that you just say yes to everything and just have this mindset of anything is possible. And this is something that I hear quite a bit with all of the millennial entrepreneurs that I interview, and I find it really interesting. Why do you think it is that young people, or a lot of young people, have this mindset of, I'll just give it a crack and I'm not afraid to put myself out there, as opposed to maybe other generations who, I remember when I told my parents that I was going to quit my cushy HR job and start my own business, and they tried to talk me out of it, and a lot of people tried to talk me out of it. Why do you think it is that millennials or young people have a different attitude towards these things?
Yeah, I think with each generation we learn, right? So my parents would have learned from their parents, and they're probably more risk takers than their parents were. And so it's even society's, accepting that people want to do things differently. Whereas 50, 100 years ago, there was 2 occupations. If you didn't fit into those 2 and you had, 2 specifically for females or 2 specifically for males, it was all hell broke loose. But these days there are endless opportunities. So I think it's a combination of just society's evolution and being more accepting. But secondly, just the fact that we have more opportunities. Really, you can do anything. You can make up a job role if you want to. If people need what you have, then you can make up something. And technology advancements, so many of these things now make it possible as well. And then secondly, I think it's seeing others doing it empowers you to take those actions. So when I was 17 and I decided that I wanted to be a CEO, I did not think that meant running my own business, because people didn't do it then. People weren't running global businesses from home like they are now. I'm running $1 million business from home, and it just wasn't a thing that people did then. So I thought, okay, I'll have to go corporate, work my way up to be a CEO. And it was only a couple of years later that I discovered Lisa Messenger and the Collective Hub magazines. And she told stories of entrepreneurs doing this. So I think that also ignited the spark inside of me a little bit more to see that, hey, they're doing this. This is how they've done it. I can take those learnings plus add my own learnings through trial and error, through whatever it is, just making it up as I go, to be honest, was mostly my strategy. And so I think, the next generations after us and after us and after us is just going to continue to accelerate, really. We really don't know what tomorrow is going to hold, because things are changing faster than ever. So it's really exciting to see what's going to come.
I love it. I'm excited too. And I love the fact that anyone can start a business now, that you don't actually need to be qualified or a specialist or have a degree in fashion design to start a swimwear brand, whereas we used to think that unless you had years of experience and knew what you were doing, that, you know, they were the only people who were allowed to kind of dabble in that field. But going back to the swimwear brand, what is the name of the swimwear brand, just for people listening? And then, sorry, what was it?
I was just going to say it's Ete Swimwear. So it's spelled E-T-E, which means summer in French.
Oh, I'll just put it in the comments. So E-T-E swimwear.
Yeah.
And what was it that you wanted in a bathing suit that you weren't getting from the market? And what's your point of difference? Because what I heard from the conversation that we had was that there was a gap and you wanted swimwear that did something in particular, and I'm just really curious about what that was.
Yeah, so at the time there was a lot of black, khaki, plain triangle bikinis. Like that was kind of it. You went to the swimwear shop, that's what you saw. And you can see I've got a pink wall behind me. Like everything I love is pinks, pastels, you know, florals, frills, all of those beautiful, pretty elements. But I also love to go on adventures and I don't want things falling out. So I like comfortable, but also really pretty designs. So I thought I'm just going to design what I personally like. And luckily, a lot of other people loved it too. When I did enter into the industry, though, I realized that it is so much more saturated than you think. And I didn't realize that until I entered into it. However, I still had major success because I didn't overanalyze that fact. I didn't think, oh, wow, there's actually way too many people doing this. Let's just stop. I just saw, I'm going to be global. I'm going to make this work. This is what I'm doing. And didn't really look at the others. And many other brands that started around the same time or were even started before have closed down or you know, didn't work out because perhaps they didn't have the right mindset or strategies or drive to, you know, put in the hard work, because there's definitely been many, many tears and sleepless nights and stressful situations. But I'm glad that I've built the business up to a point where it's either automated, systemized, or I have a very small and lean team managing the operations globally, because we have warehouses in Australia and the US and sort of catering to both the markets, because being a seasonal product, we would have gone bankrupt in the first year if we didn't go global as well. So that's been a huge part of the journey.
And so I had a question and now I've lost it because I started thinking of other questions. So why do you think that your brand was successful when others weren't? What set you apart?
I really do think it comes down to mindset. Like, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but like I've touched on so many of the reasons, and some people might have even thought, oh shit, those are thoughts that I'm having right now, because I was determined enough to push through when things got tough, when things went wrong. Like, I emptied my entire bank account and I didn't even realize. I was just so committed to making this happen that I forgot to look at the bank account. And you know, I couldn't even pay for parking that day when I got to work. And it was like a tough challenge in mindset in general. And I had a pretty good mindset, but a lot of people probably would have given up at those times. So I really do think it's perseverance. And I actually have shared this story before where it took me 5,000 individual emails to land my first major wholesaler in the US. That's not sending an email to 5,000 people on a database. That's one by one saying, hey, Jenny, hey, Emily, like individualizing 5,000 emails before I got one yes. And that was over a whole year as well. Following them up, you know, all of that to land one major wholesale deal. But that wholesale deal was worth 20,000 US dollars just for their trial order. So it was well worth it. But many people give up after. And a lot of my clients come to me and they say, Jess, no one wants my stuff. And I say, how many people did you email? Usually their answer is 2. And they know exactly what I'm going to say when they tell me 2, because they know, because I share this all the time. And I said, come back to me when it's 5,000 or more. But in that year, 5,000, guess how many of those 5,000 actually replied? Probably 2. This wasn't 5,000 emails having a conversation. This was 5,000 emails with no response. But after that year, this one brand had watched me. They watched my journey. They watched what I was doing over that whole year. They didn't reply, but they were watching. And then they said, look, we've watched what you're doing. We're going to place a trial order of 20,000 US dollars. That's a lot of swimwear for a small brand from Perth, So it pays off. And that was just their trial order. So they went on to buy much, much more. But a lot of people give up before they've actually really even tried. It's not got to do with your product. To be honest, there's a lot of great products or services, I'm sure if you've got a business, you made it for a reason. But the number one reason, and this is why I'm so passionate about mindset and overcoming these blockages within yourself, is that you have all of the answers inside of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have created the business. Secondly, if you don't have the answer, guess what? The answer exists somewhere. So you can figure it out by Googling it, by hiring a mentor, by finding someone who knows how to do it, or outsourcing it. The answer to everything has already been answered. The only thing is, how badly do you want to find the answer, or how badly do you want it to work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about how badly do you want to find the solution? Or, so many people have got all these excuses, and you talked about that before. It's too hard, it takes too long. Everyone wants the shortcut to success. But time and time again, I speak to people like you who have the same story. It's about perseverance. It's about a million people saying no and then one saying yes. And there's no get rich quick scheme, or like these stories of like businesses getting crowdfunded overnight. Behind that story is probably a 5 or 10 year journey to get there. So looking back on all of that, what's been probably the biggest or the most challenging situation that you've had to overcome to get where you are now?
All of it's a constant challenge. I think you just get bigger and bigger challenges, but you also become tougher. But I think my first year in business was definitely the toughest. I did it all alone. It wasn't as common to have a coach or things like that then either. And so I did it all alone, and I literally made it up. I made up everything that I did, and a lot of trial and error. And like I said, I completely emptied my bank account. Now, this was a few weeks before I had to go to New York Fashion Week. And obviously, as I said, going to New York costs money, leveraging the opportunities around that. And thirdly, creating a whole new collection when I haven't even sold the first one, all costs money. And so I emptied my bank account. I was completely burnt out. My mental health was not great because I was working full time in a job, and that full-time job was 8 hours, plus I had a 2-hour commute to that job that I didn't like. So as soon as I left home, I was stressing about all the things I needed to do in my business because it was operating globally. We had a lot of orders coming in. As soon as I left home, then I had to sit in the car for an hour thinking about all these thoughts that I couldn't action because obviously I'm driving. There's not much I can do. And then when I got to the job, my mental health was being torn because I would do what I could on my business on the side, go to a lot of toilet breaks. But still, it wasn't enough. Things went wrong in manufacturing in China, and I couldn't action that. I couldn't solve it. I had a lot of sick days. I wasn't eating properly because I would wake up super early, pack all the orders, drive to work. On my lunch break, I would have to go to the post office. And then after work, by the time I got home, I would start working on the business. The one thing I never negotiated on was sleep, which has just never been something that I could pull all-nighters on. But it meant that I wasn't prioritizing other areas of my health. I never had a break. Not 1 minute of a break. As I was walking from my car to the office, I'd be on my phone on Instagram, not 1 second was left unaccounted for. And that led to adrenal fatigue, massive burnout in that first year, and just being torn, with where you want to be and where you had to be. And I always said to myself, when I was earning a certain amount in the business, I would be allowed to quit. But I'm the only one who put that rule on myself. No one else did. And there was no real reason that I had to, I was living at home. I had no mortgage. I have no kids. What was the risk? But because society tells us, are you sure you want to take that risk? Are you sure you want to leave that job? I got to the point where my mental health was so bad that I was making myself physically ill or nauseous and things like that. That's when you've got to quit. And I make sure that my clients and anyone that I speak to don't get to that point.
Yeah.
But I decided that I'm just going to quit, because right now I actually said to myself, and this is not even a bad thing if you work there, but I said I would rather quit, give it a try. If it fails, I'll get a job at McDonald's. Like, that would be a better situation for me than where I'm at now. Like, I don't even care what job I get. Anything's better than where I am now. Like, you can get another job. Why do we put so much pressure on ourselves saying that if you quit, this is the be all and end all? Like, you're not making the decision for the rest of your life. You're just making a decision for right now. So why do we put that pressure on ourselves? Like, I probably would have quit way sooner. And when I did quit, the business grew 500% in that 1 month. So It really does show, when you take care of yourself and where you put your energy is where you'll see results as well. So it is risky, but what's more risky is your health, not chasing your dreams, like all of these other things. So that was something that was super challenging, but also super rewarding in having gone through that and coming out the other side.
Love it. I think everybody who's an entrepreneur has a story of burnout at some point, where you hit rock bottom. But what do they say? Before you go up, you must go down. So I think
it's even still an ongoing challenge to avoid burnout, but now I'm better at recognizing it to not let it go on for too long.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What are some of the signs of burnout, do you think, for people who are listening who might be feeling they're on the verge of burnout? Because I guess the end result of burnout is adrenal fatigue and like serious autoimmune issues. But what are some of the warning signs, do you think?
Yeah, well, for me, it was like waking up at 2 a.m., not knowing why. Like, my body was causing me to wake up at this exact time every night. And that's because your brain goes into that subconscious state. There's a whole science behind it, but I was waking up at exactly 2 or 3 a.m. every night with like this severe anxious feeling. So I was feeling super anxious. I don't have like diagnosed anxiety, but I was feeling super anxious in these situations. My heart rate was through the roof. Like I said, I wasn't eating properly. Like, I was prioritizing work over everything else. And for me, I notice it in my heart rate. So now I've gotten really good at noticing even just the slightest increase in my heart rate. I know that I need to go outside for a minute. I need to deep breathe, or I need to actually just take the whole afternoon off, because I will be so much more productive if I can recharge myself in that time. So other things with burnout is just, firstly, you're probably not being that productive because you're burnt out. Like, if you burn anything else out, it's not going to work. Yeah, brain fog, just that anxiety, stress levels increase, you're probably crying a lot and just having a lot of breakdowns. But everyone's signs are different. But I would just encourage you to even just check in with yourself every now and then, every week or every day, and just say, how am I really feeling about this? Like, am I excited, or is it causing me stress, or is it causing me to, why am I putting this pressure on myself? And that's something I had to learn as a really driven person, is to, well, I don't actually have to do all of my ideas right now. And maybe this is not that urgent. Like, what's more urgent? And not putting a hard deadline on myself as well, and coming back to it when I do have more space to think about it and really action it properly. And that is another reason why I started 4 businesses in 5 years, because I was actioning every single thing I thought of straight away, which was great because a lot of people sit there and never action things. But I've had to reverse engineer that and say to myself, hey, is this really my purpose? But that was something that I had to go through because I wouldn't be here now talking about this. This is what I feel is truly my purpose. Whereas those businesses were vehicles to get me here. I couldn't have gone from that full-time job to where I am now. So it's all part of the process. Sometimes you do have to go through trial and error, but just checking in with yourself, like, is this my purpose? Do I feel fulfilled by this? What impact is this having on my life, on others' lives? And is this really what you want to be doing? Because if it's not, then you have the power to change that. But so often we just keep working. We keep going and we keep working. We don't actually ask ourselves, like, why am I doing this? I don't actually have to do this, you know? So that's just something I would encourage everyone to do, is check in.
I love it. That's so true. I think a lot of people will resonate with that. So the $1 million question is, did you go to New York Fashion Week, and what happened?
Yes, yes, I did. So it was about 6 months after I launched the business. I was in New York Fashion Week and didn't tell my boss, no one needed to know. I was just going on holiday and it was amazing. It was an incredible experience. I absolutely love New York and we got to make a little bit of a holiday out of it. But we did the New York Fashion Week show, and as I said, it was in a showcase with all other Australian designers, which was really cool. But my section was, I think, 3 minutes 50. It was like almost 4 minutes, and it felt like it was just done and done. Like, it was so fast, and it was the best experience, but it was just manic backstage. Like, it's something straight out of a movie, all the hectic things going on. And because they saw that I was nervous, so normally the designer comes out and does a bit of a wave and then, you know, just to close out your section of the show. Because they saw that I was nervous, they got the model to hold my hand, and the model was going to come out with me. Whereas all the other designers, they came out, they took 2 steps, did a wave, they took 2 steps backstage. The model decided she's going to go all the way to the end of the runway, which was like 100 meters. It was a long runway. And I was like, are we going to stop? Are we going to stop? Are we going to stop? Nope, we'll keep going. So we walked all the way to the end of the runway. But that was really cool because I got these awesome photos of me with the model, with my designs on at the end of the runway with the crowd. Like, it was amazing. So I'm so glad that we got that. And that was an awesome opportunity. But one lesson that I would just love to share with everyone about that is 4 minutes on a runway is not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to do anything for you. It's what you do with that opportunity. So I went out there and got all of my own press. I was on Channel 9 News here in Perth. I was on the radio. I was, you know, in Forbes. I was on all of these platforms because I went out there and I said, hey, this is my story. And I amplified that. All of the other designers went, did their 4 minutes on the runway, went home. There were celebrities in the audience watching us, which was pretty cool. And, you know, it got a little bit of social media, but it wasn't really ever going to catapult a brand. Whereas I went out and got my own press coverage. I also partnered up with one of my friends who also came to New York, who had a body oil brand, which worked perfectly with mine. And we did our own separate studio showcase where we invited influencers, we invited press, we invited, potential stockists or wholesalers, and we set up that in a showroom. So we leveraged being in New York to the maximum. Other people just went there for a fun time, which really doesn't do anything. So with any opportunity, whatever it is your runway is, maximize every opportunity that you have.
That's great advice, because I was going to say to you, what was the end result of that? Like, what did you get out of it? Because I feel like sometimes we think that if we get that news coverage, or if we get to be on TV, then that's going to be the moment. Like, everyone thinks that there's this moment where it's like, yeah, I've made it. Like, I just got $1 million order or whatever it is. But you're absolutely right. It's what you do with it. And a lot of people just sit back and expect that the results are going to come. Every moment of business is what you make of it. And you can either maximize it or you can kind of minimize it. So that's great advice.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you doing now? Let's talk really quickly just to finish up about what Jess is up to now and how people can work with you, because you're obviously pivoted and you're doing something very different now. You've still got the swimwear brand, but it seems like your passion has moved into another realm. So let's talk really quickly about that.
Yeah, so I am a trained and certified business and mindset coach. So I'm using all of the experiences that I've had in my own businesses through trial and error, through figuring it out, through all of those things, but also pairing that with the mindset work. So I've done a lot of trainings and certifications to the levels of like a master's degree in the power of the mind and in strategies around mindset, such as NLP, all of those things. And so that is something that I'm really, really passionate about, is helping other females do that. And the way that I do that is combining the mindset with the strategies. So often business owners are looking for the get rich quick or the quick hack or the new Facebook ads, secret, which is what all other coaches are talking about, or all other, experts in their field are saying, I've got the answer, I've got the secret. But I'm going to tell you right now, there is no one secret. So don't get confused by all the different things. People often have shiny object syndrome, which is where they try one thing, doesn't work, try the next thing, doesn't work. Guess what? You've got to try something for long enough so it actually works. And so I work with people mostly in the mindset space, but I also couple that with these simple strategies to get you there, because I built a business on no budget. I didn't go out there and pay $30,000 for branding and, all of these experts. I've come up with strategies to get people to the end result without having to spend a ton of money, without a ton of risk, and all of that in between. So that is what I'm really passionate about. And I do that through my Instagram, sharing my knowledge. I do have my own podcast as well, which is called Couch Chats. And I talk a lot about mindset there. And also through my coaching and my membership, the Dreamers and Doers membership, which is really funny because the Girls Club has now become the Dreamers and Doers membership. The Girls Club when I was 6 or 7 years old, which is really cool. We do have prizes and we do have fun in there, but we also have a lot of learning. So it's just funny that it's come full circle to that.
And so if people want to learn more about working with you or your brands, where's the best place to find you? Obviously, we've got your Instagram handle there, jess.williamson8. But is there anywhere else that people can learn more about your girls club, your Builders and Dreamers club? Because I'm sure there's some listeners out there who would love to get involved.
Yeah, definitely. So the Dreamers and Doers is just where I share fortnightly lessons. We have an amazing community in there, and I've made it as affordable as possible. So it's really only 57 Australian dollars per month. And you get access to all of my knowledge. A lot of other masterminds at that caliber are sort of $297 US a month. So I wanted to make it as accessible as possible. And you can find out more about that either from my Instagram, I have all of the links to everything there, or on my website, jessicawilliamson.com.au. And I do also have a free workbook if you want to overcome limiting beliefs. So I realized that people really need to work on this, which we've just spoken about, but I do have a free workbook in there, and it's not just another freebie. This one really can impact your life in general. So if you do want to check that out, that's also on my website, jessicawilliamson.com.au.
Amazing. I'm going to check it out myself. Love it. I love NLP, and I've done some study in that area as well. So I'm picking up with what you're putting down. And it's been amazing hearing your story. Congratulations. You should be really proud of yourself. And I can't wait to have a look at your swimwear brand either.
Thanks so much.
But have a great day, and thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Amazing.